Hello everyone, and welcome. Today, we're looking at a gun that was, quite literally, a time traveler. It showed up decades too early and was so futuristic that the world didn't know how to handle it. This is the Mondragón Model 1908 rifle. When we talk about the history of guns, we usually focus on the big industrial powers, Germany, America, Russia. But at the very beginning of the 20th century, the first country to officially adopt a modern, self-loading rifle was Mexico. This rifle was the brainchild of a brilliant Mexican general named Manuel Mondragón. It was a weapon of incredible ambition, designed to leapfrog military technology far ahead of the industrial giants. The Mondragón M1908 is the grandfather of every modern military rifle you see today. But its story is a sad one. A story of a magnificent machine that failed spectacularly, not because of bad design, but because the world wasn't ready for its genius. To appreciate the Mondragón's genius, you have to understand what shooting a rifle was like before the year 1908. Soldiers relied on what we call bolt-action rifles. Imagine firing a classic hunting rifle. After every single shot, the soldier had to physically use his hand to yank a handle, the bolt, backwards, then push it forward, just to get the next bullet into the chamber. It was slow, cumbersome, and took the soldier's eye off the target. General Mondragón wanted to shatter this paradigm. He wanted a semi-automatic rifle. What does semi-automatic mean? Think of it this way. The gun does the heavy lifting for you. You pull the trigger once, the bullet fires, and the gun uses the energy from that shot to automatically throw out the empty shell and load the next fresh bullet. You just have to pull the trigger again. It allows a soldier to fire 4 or 5 times faster. This was revolutionary technology in the early 1900s. It was the difference between a bicycle and a motorcycle. So, how did Mondragón manage this magic trick? He invented a system that every major military rifle, from the M1 Garand to the modern AR-15, uses today, the gas-operated rotating bolt. Let's look at the workings inside. Thanks to the visuals from World of Guns. When the bullet speeds down the barrel, a tiny hole taps a small amount of a hot, expanding gas. That gas is directed backward into a tube. Think of it like a small puff of steam pushing a lever. This gas hits a piston, and that piston rod is what powers the whole machine. It violently shoves the internal parts backward to eject the empty shell. Then, a strong spring shoves the parts forward, loading a fresh cartridge and rotating the bolt to lock the chamber. This was genius. It was the first time this precise combination of tapping gas for power and using a rotating bolt for secure locking was successfully put into a military rifle. Mondragón designed the engine of the modern firearm. Mondragón designed this rifle, but Mexico lacked the industrial power to manufacture it cleanly. So the job went to the Swiss and then, most notably, to a major German factory, SIG. By 1914, the First World War broke out. Germany, needing massive amounts of firepower, found itself holding a stockpile of these futuristic Mexican rifles. They put them to use, primarily in the air. The Mondragón M1908 became the first semi-automatic rifle to be used in aerial warfare, primarily by German pilots and observers. Why? Because fighting from an open cockpit was incredibly difficult. The ability to shoot multiple rounds without taking a hand off the controls to cycle a bolt was a huge advantage. It was a technical success story in the skies. Despite its revolutionary design and success in the air, the Mondragón was a disaster on the ground. Its commercial failure was tied to 3 major problems. 1. Complexity. Remember how precise it was? This meant it had a huge number of tiny, delicate parts. The trenches of World War I were filled with mud, dirt, and dust. When that crud got into the rifle's delicate clockwork, it jammed. The German soldiers needed a gun that worked in the dirt, not a complex machine that needed constant cleaning. 2. Ammunition. The Mondragón was designed for high-quality ammunition, but the wartime factories struggled to keep quality control high. The gun was extremely sensitive to inconsistent bullets, leading to more jams and breakages. The rifle was technically ahead of the industry that was supposed to supply it. 3. Cost. It was incredibly expensive to manufacture due to its complex, high-precision machining. No army could afford to lose these expensive pieces of art in the millions, like they could with simpler, manually operated rifles. The German military quickly withdrew the rifle from infantry service, deciding it was too fragile and too expensive for the brutality of trench warfare. The Mondragón Model 1908 is a perfect example of a brilliant machine that failed to find its market. It was a magnificent, complex engine built too early, before the industrial world had caught up to its demands. It never won a war, but its legacy is immense. It proved that a gas-operated, self-loading rifle was possible, paving the way for the great semi-automatic rifles that would define the middle of the 20th century. It was the essential, flawed pioneer. And thanks to the detailed breakdown provided by World of Guns, Gun Disassembly, we can safely study the ingenious mechanism that startled the world over a century ago. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this look at a magnificent failure, please like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments which weapon you want to see next.